Council, Mayor Dalton, city employees and residents. I just want to spend a few minutes and kind of discuss some concerns I have just as a resident, taking off my weed hat for a minute. In particular, I wanted to discuss roughly about 6 weeks ago, Mick Dodson, who's a state investigator, sent a second letter to our elected officials, and this time including department heads that were available within our city's website. And the contents of the letter were essentially addressing our improper execution of what we call an aldermanic form of government. And to just kind of double click on that, what that means is essentially an aldermanic form of government. The mayor is ultimately the CEO. He hires people, he terminates people, he has responsibility for budgets. Unfortunately, based on my research, minutes, agendas that I have found, that really hasn't been going on here within this town. And just to kind of drill a little bit deeper on that is, when I go to the city website and I look under city administration, I see Dwayne's picture there with this awesome write-up about what he's done, he's accomplished, how he's the director of WPWA, and the city administrator. That's factually not true. And if I'm a resident that I've heard what I've said, and I've heard like what potentially has been on the news, or his letter back to, reporters, Bert Marmelo, gonna be very confusing as a resident to understand what's our form of government. Is Dwayne the city administrator? Is he WPWA director and city administrator? Is he a street supervisor? Is he street superintendent or city superintendent? I apologize. So as a resident, I'm demanding clarity on the website. I'm demanding clarity on his job roles, which are published both on his LinkedIn page, his professional CV, as well as other boards that he served on. You can't say that you're something when you're not. It just doesn't work like that in a professional world. So enough said on that point. Second piece I want to talk about, why does our highest paid employee not live in this city? He's doing 2 jobs. We're paying for his fuel and giving him a city truck to drive back and forth. It just doesn't make financial sense to me. And I understand that the council probably voted at some point to give him that vehicle and whatnot, but does it really make sense to have a vehicle that's out of our county and we don't even know where it is? We have no tracking mechanisms on it. I mean, I understand there could be certain situations that vehicles need to leave our city and whatnot. At a bare minimum, they should be tracked electronically. Just like all of our employees that work for these residents here, they should have monitoring software on their PCs to make sure that they're productive. Along with making sure there's so many time cards that are both accurate as well as reflective of PTO and vacation time being accrued correctly. My next question is, I asked 3 different directors within different departments within the city who they work for, and every one of them told me that they work for Dwayne. Again, that is not true. I guess if you work at WPA, that could be true. You work for the street department, but he does not have employment authority at EMS. He doesn't have employment authority at the library, or some of these other departments within the city that he's making both budgetary decisions upon, as well as potential employment decisions. Now, his letter into Bert, which was really highlighting his innocence and attempting to shift the blame onto quote unquote, some investigator potentially could be rogue or didn't understand things. I've talked to several different attorneys and I've talked to several specialists just alone in this field, and I will give you, our form of government is extremely rare. I believe there's only 3 other municipalities within Oklahoma that execute on that. So I understand there could be potential confusion on how that particularly works. But believe me when I say, this is not just a gray area. Some areas are gray. This is very much a black and white area. We're not doing things the right way here. I'm begging the council to step in, do something about it. Let's take control of our city and let's do what makes economic sense for our residents here. Just gonna say again, in my opinion, the city superintendent, even though I've looked within the ordinances, it doesn't really define clearly what his authority is, but he doesn't have the ability to alter the aldermanic structure of our form of government, period. And the reason that's so important is because if you bring in a city administrator to create that role, that could definitely happen, but it would take a vote of the people. The people would have to say, we want to change our form of government to a weak mayor, strong council with a city administrator. I'm not here to say whether or not that is the right fitment, but what I'm here to say is we are not executing in the correct manner. The final piece I want to talk about is, seems to be a lot of legal advice provided by our city attorney that's been either inconsistent, inaccurate, or just not simply true. And I'm just asking for some people to be held accountable, and just let me give you a quick example. I reviewed some footage of a meeting last summer when I believe it was Roger Schilling was being installed to the Wagner Economic Development Authority. There was a motion put forth by certain members on the council to basically remove him from that ability. Essentially, a vote ensued and Dalton attempted to veto it. Our city attorney stopped him, made a mockery of the event, and told Dalton he didn't have veto power. Dalton absolutely has veto powers. The CEO of the mayor is the CEO of our town. There's only 2 instances he doesn't have veto power. If something's already been vetoed previously, he can't come around and veto it again, or something sat unsigned, or he didn't take action on something. He told Dalton during that meeting that he could only veto an ordinance. And Mr. Hicks, the definition of a resolution is anything that the council takes action upon, period. Validated by 4 separate attorneys and numerous other methods. At the end of the day, you essentially prevented democracy of our town by doing that. We could have put Signgate behind us a lot quicker instead of dragging out in the media. So those are just some of the things that I think about. I don't want to take any more time tonight, and I just appreciate everybody listening to me. Thank you.